Mantis is quite possibly the most fun support in the game, and even though she can heal her team, let's be real y'all, Mantis is a killer DPS in disguise. My name is Paz, an Eternity support player on the competitive ladder, and I'm going to tell you all of the things you actually need to know in order to pop off and carry with Mantis. Before we get started with her abilities, understand that the way you carry on Mantis is by doing damage and getting picks, not just healing your team. While the healing Mantis provides is nice, if you are playing her to just do healing, you should just be on Luna Snow or literally any other support. With this in mind, let's hop right into discussing the kit of Mantis. Mantis fires projectile bolts of life energy that deal 50 damage per round to the body and 100 to the head without damage boost at a fire rate of 2.5 bolts per second. With these damage numbers, 2 shots to the head and 1 to the body is enough to eliminate squishies with 250 HP, but not 275 HP. If you give yourself a damage boost, you boost your outgoing damage by 12%, meaning you can hit that 275 HP threshold with the same combo, dealing 112 per headshot and 56 per body shot, totaling 280 per 2 headshot, 1 body shot combo. We will talk more about the self-damage boost later, but whenever you look to do damage, which is pretty much constantly, you should have this on. Even though the combo does a flat 250 damage without it, targets are probably going to get at least a little bit of healing throughout the fight, so it is important you confirm picks for efficiency's sake by damage boosting yourself. While practicing these combos, you might notice that when you get really close to a target, shooting their head doesn't actually hit headshots and just deals body shot damage instead. This is because the bolts come from your hero model, not your reticle, which is pretty tilting, especially on Mantis. The closer you get to a target, the more you'll want to aim to the top right of their head, almost near their health bar. And I mean, like, by a considerable amount too. There is a specific reticle you can use for this, but if I'm gonna be honest, the amount of times that you should be this close to a target are few and far between, so I don't really think it's worth to brick your screen for niche situations. Just keep that in mind. I also want to remind you that these bolts are projectiles that move pretty fast, but are not hit scan, meaning that you'll have to lead your shots a bit, especially at farther ranges, in order to hit your targets or walk closer. But do not fall into this trap, or else you will oftentimes find yourself out of position and getting killed very easily. Even if you don't feel confident in your aim, you have to force yourself to practice and not develop bad habits to compensate. A question I get a lot about hitting more shots on Mantis is whether or not you should hold your fire button or tap. At the end of the day, it all just comes down to preference, but I personally tap in situations I want to be very precise for each primary fire shot most of the time. I do this because due to bolts being projectiles, the type of aim that correlates most to these scenarios is clicking, both static and dynamic. If you were a big Aim Labs or Kovacs player, these are the types of scenarios you'll want to practice. But if you just want to learn more of this, I'll put a link to a video that I trust in the description, just check that out. The only time I hold my fire is if I sleep someone and want to burn them immediately after, but we will talk about that once we cover the sleep. Outside of just finding picks, hitting headshots on Mantis also generates a full charge of a leaf, which allows her to damage boost or heal an ally as well as damage boost yourself, so that is why it is so important that you are getting aggressive with Mantis instead of just healing and doing nothing. Your total output is directly correlated to the headshots that you are hitting, and don't worry, tank headshots count too, so while dueling a DPS can sometimes be important, sometimes setting yourself up for a few headshots on a tank isn't the end of the world if someone has an important ultimate or flank that you need to heal or damage for. If you take nothing away from this video and listen to only one thing I say, just understand that Mantis is the embodiment of the concept that dealing damage is a form of healing your team. You don't need to heal your team if you can just eliminate the enemies first. So applying as much pressure as possible is key to your success on Mantis, and healing takes an important passenger seat on Mantis in this scenario. All right, but let's start talking about what those leaves under your crosshair are used for. They can be used for one of 3 actions, but first, we are going to talk about the healing action that is bound to right-click by default on PC, the healing flower. Upon using the cooldown, the healing flower is sent to the designated target and consumes 1 life charge. The healing flower is instantly consumed by the target, initially healing them for 55 HP, and then they get an additional 20 healing per second over 8 seconds, totaling for 215 healing after 8 seconds. If you wonder if a target is still getting healing, you can look at the bottom right hand side of your screen that shows every target currently affected by your healing and damage boosts. Healing is in green, damage boosts are in blue. It's pretty neat, honestly. If you find that you are struggling to hit specific targets with your healing when they're all clumped up, or your damage boost as well, you can switch both of their sensitivities in the settings menu and turn down the sensitivity to like 50 or something. What's nice is that this doesn't actually lower your range on the heal either, like it did in other hero shooters, so there's really no harm or foul to just lowering the sensitivity if you're struggling. So you might be thinking, dang, this healing on Mantis is pretty low, and you would be right. Mantis heals for barely anything, but here's the thing, the way that she heals is actually pretty nice, especially in dive compositions. Because the healing flower heals over time, you can toss a flanker a heal when they are taking a duel or are about to take a duel, along with a damage boost, and it makes it essentially impossible for them to lose that duel. This is only in situations though where you think they're going to leave your line of sight, and you won't be able to heal them since they'll be behind a wall. This same concept still applies if you want to take an aggressive angle later in the fight out of the line of sight of your other support. Not every support in this game has crazy self-healing capabilities like you do on Mantis. So it is your job to deal healing to your supports first, then your DPS in situations where it's applicable. If you forget about your other support, not only are they going to die more often, but then you are going to get punished for taking an angle because the rest of your team isn't going to be getting healing from that support that just died. Targeting aside, you should try to heal your targets when they are down about 50 HP so that you don't waste a life charge without maximizing your value with it, especially if you are playing against a composition with hard to headshot tanks like Captain America, compositions with only one tank, or in situations where the tanks are already dead. This is because it's going to be even harder to hit headshots and keep your resources up. This concept is known as resource management. It is something that the best Mantis players are really efficient with. Now, if you came from Overwatch, I have to say, resource management is a whole lot easier in Marvel Rivals comparatively. So if you are not sure if your DPS is going to leave your line of sight, it is better to just toss them the heal and the damage boost just in case, since it is so easy to just get a charge back by shooting a tank in the head. You'll get better at anticipating if someone's going to leave your line of sight with more practice, and it also depends on the map. Just keep this idea in mind. Likewise, because your healing is so weak, you shouldn't really ever have to dish heals to tanks unless you have extra resources to use. Your other support should be able to deal with your frontline, and the real way that you are going to keep your frontline alive on Mantis is if you just eliminate the enemies first. Obviously, if someone needs healing and is critical, send them the heal, but your priorities are healing and damage boosting your DPS and supports first, along with taking angles to eliminate the enemies, and then you can start maybe thinking about helping out your tanks. Now that we understand how the heal works on Mantis, let's talk about the allied damage boost, Allied Inspiration. When you hover your reticle over a friendly target, you can press E by default on PC on them to dish them a damage boost that boosts all outgoing damage they cast by 12% for 8 seconds. An important distinction to make with this ability is that it boosts damage when the damage is casted and not when the damage is hit. This is the opposite of Luna Snow's ultimate that boosts the damage when it is hit instead. Therefore, you have to boost Namor before he ults, not after. It is a very important distinction to make, and it's important that you get this right. Damage boost is the most important aspect of Mantis's kit to keep up as much as possible, no matter what target you are putting it on. When DPS are getting active and looking for picks, you need to be damage boosting this. This could be if a Star-Lord is just taking a duel, if a Punisher is just blasting down the enemy team, or if your Storm is sending barrages of electricity through the enemy team. Every single bullet counts, not just because it will eliminate the enemies faster, but also, and even more importantly, because it will charge everyone's ultimate faster too. Yes, that is right. If your Luna Snow or Adam Warlock is 10% off of their ult and you need their ult to counter an enemy ultimate, damage boost them and help them farm it up just in time for you to swing the fight. It does not increase their healing output, just to make sure that you guys all are aware, but it does increase their damage output, which is still incredibly important given the right situation. The The same goes for tanks, especially Strange when he wants to blast his darkness, or Venom as he engages with a dive, for example. Every little bit helps, and there are quite a few breakpoints that this helps as well. A breakpoint is a mathematical situation where a damage value hits just the right threshold to make a meaningful difference in the game. On Mantis, this looks like damage boosting a Black Widow, allowing her to one-shot headshot 250 HP targets. Yes, this combo is absolutely insane and nobody is talking about it. Widow is absolutely slept on when you have Mantis. Another interesting breakpoint is when you damage boost a Star-Lord ultimate, which makes every mag go from 260 damage to 290 damage per mag, allowing him to one-clip 275 HP targets and make the ultimate just feel absolutely insane in general. There are tons of other breakpoints that I won't cover in this video that have yet to be talked about by the community at large, but understand that breakpoint or not, damage boost needs to be dished out around your team. Do not get overzealous with the damage boost though. Like we talked about earlier, you can see who is currently damage boosted on the bottom right hand side of your screen, indicated by the blue bar. Do not damage boost a target if they are already damage boosted. Save your charge and wait until they are about 1 second off of losing the damage boost. Not only will this allow you to focus on damage yourself, but it will also keep your resource management efficient, allowing you to always have what you need given any situation. Damage and resource management are key with Mantis. Don't get overwhelmed, lock in, and you got this. The last way you can use your life charges is by using them on yourself to trigger natural anger, which is essentially a damage boost applied to yourself that we were talking about earlier. This should always be used on yourself whenever you do damage. It allows you to hit your 2 headshot, 1 body shot combo much more consistently, and even lets you eliminate 275 HP targets like Luna Snow when damage boosted if she doesn't get any heals herself. There is not really anything too crazy to talk about with this ability, other than that you need to make sure that you are not using this more than you need to. Each cast gives you the damage boost for 8 seconds, the same for giving damage boost to other allies, which is an absurd amount of time, by the way, for hero shooters. If there is ever a situation where you are low on resources, natural anger takes the first seat out though. Damage boost and healing always come first, since if you are low on resources, it means you probably aren't even hitting your shots anyway, meaning that the damage boost is meaningless. Yeah, I hate to say it, guys, but you are self-reporting when you are low on resources. But everyone has off games. Everyone has off games. I understand. Just like damage boosting others, though, you do just generate your ultimate essentially 12% faster with damage boost on yourself. So just keep that in mind if you really need to charge it before the fight goes south. Also, when you damage boost yourself or an ally on top of healing allies as well, you heal yourself for 12.5 HP per second over 8 seconds, which is something that I didn't really know until later in my Mantis career, so it is really important you still pop this if you need it when peeling for yourself in a 1v1 against a flanker or DPS target, really. I left this in the self-damage boost section because you will always be able to proc this passive this way, where the others you might not have a target in your line of sight to heal you all of the time. It also helps you keep your passive online that gets you a small movement speed boost when you are max HP and out of combat for 3 seconds. Now that we understand how Mantis dishes out healing and damage boosts, let's talk about her last neutral ability, Spore Slumber, which allows Mantis to throw a sleep bomb that deals 10 damage on impact and puts the closest enemy it hits to sleep with a radius of 3 meters. Just to be clear, each bomb can only sleep 1 target, and that 1 target is who is closest to the bomb. So even if 2 targets get hit, only 1 gets slept. When a target is put to sleep, they stay sleeping for 3.5 seconds if left untouched, and wake up if they are shot by an enemy or if the team shoots the purple illusion that pops out behind them. Most players don't actually know about the illusion part, but now you do. The sleep bomb, as I call it, is on a 15-second cooldown, so once you use it, understand that good players on the enemy team will recognize that you are a weak target to take out. If the enemy team has a flanker like Star-Lord, Psylocke, Black Panther, or Spider-Man, it is important that you do not use your sleep aggressively until you force them out of the fight or you eliminate them first. There are situations where you can use the sleep aggressively regardless though. For example, to counter ultimates like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, or Storm, just to name a few. Speaking of using the ability aggressively, when you do sleep a target, you do have time to shoot them a couple of times if you hold down your primary fire for some extra damage. It is important that you hold those so that you can get 2 shots to fire off instead of just 1. This means that if a tank is getting aggressive on you, you can absolutely fry them if you hit a headshot or 2 first, sleep them, and then unload a barrage of bolts to their dome afterwards. It is also important to note though that you'll want to damage boost yourself before you sleep a target to shoot 2 bolts at them immediately, since the animation of damage boosting yourself is long enough to stop you from fully utilizing this combo. Just keep this in mind that it is better to just get your shots off first right away if they are sleeping if you happen to not be damage boosted already. Just keep in mind that the models do move a bit when characters go to sleep, like Doctor Strange for example, that just facepalm aura maxes you and blocks headshots if you were too close for some reason. I don't know, it's kind of annoying, but it is also kind of funny, so you do just have to learn the hitboxes that do this with time and react accordingly. There's only a few that really do move that much. If the enemy isn't running anything that you need to use sleep to peel for yourself though, and they also don't have any ultimates that need stopped, it's fine for you to just use the sleep aggressively and just set up pick opportunities for your team. Understand that Marvel Rivals is a game that throws many different situations at you though, and you can't just use every ability the same way every game. You have to be flexible to get the most out of your kit. Let's finish out our understanding of Mantis's kit by discussing her ultimate ability, Soul Resurgence, that on cast creates a spell field around Mantis that heals for 200 HP right when the ultimate is pressed, and then heals for 150 HP per second for 8 seconds after. This ultimate also overheals targets, essentially giving them blue health shields over top of their health bars. The shields are capped at 100 over top of the character's base health, meaning that Star-Lord gets 350 HP, with 100 of that made up of overheal shields. Shields are very powerful in Marvel Rivals because enemies do not get ultimate charge off of shields. This is really important in niche situations, like against Star-Lord for example, that wants to spin when 2 support ultimates are already getting traded to farm his ultimate. Against Mantis's ult, he doesn't actually get any ult charge from spinning, which is pretty neat and is a really important interaction to know. Aside from the overhealth and healing, what sets this ultimate apart is that everyone in the ultimate moves 3 meters per second faster than they normally do, which is pretty substantial, allowing teams to just walk past the front line if they wish to destroy backliners that play too close to tanks, or just rush the tanks down instead. It is important to note though that the environment in shields do block Mantis's ultimate just like the Luna ultimate, so it is important to make sure that you are watching out for wrinkly-brained strange mains from sweating and destroying your ultimate's value. On top of this, it is really easy to get carried away and leave your teammates behind with this ultimate. This is because recall that Mantis's passive allows her to move 1.5 meters per second faster on her own when she is max HP, which means she will be moving faster than the rest of her team in the ultimate. It also doesn't help if your teammate just isn't in the ultimate from the very start when you use it, meaning they will miss out on the speed boost altogether. So don't leave your teammates in the dust like they are the last kid picked for kickball, or like when the bus driver would just drive right past your stop in the morning and forget about you. That's exactly what this feels like, and it just sucks. Because of the aggressive properties of Mantis's ultimate, I typically advise Mantis players to use their ultimate first and then let their support ult second, so that you can use it for pushes instead of just countering. Not only does Mantis typically charge her ultimate faster, it also just doesn't last as long like Luna Snow's ultimate that just counters everything in the game. Not only that, but Mantis also has her own way of countering ultimates with her sleep too, which gives you more options to be aggressive with the ultimate if you're the GOAT. If I am picking an ult to engage with between Luna and Mantis, I am picking Mantis every single time, unless there is a really niche situation between 2 Luna Namor combos. If you are the only support ultimate though, make sure to keep it and save it for your team. Lastly, I know it sounds dumb to even acknowledge, but when you are ulting on Mantis, get a damage boost on your whole team immediately. Stop healing people in your ultimate. They do not need healing. Your ultimate provides that. Just eliminate the enemy team before your ultimate runs out. Thank me later. Now that we have finished talking about Mantis's kit and how to play her, what counters Mantis? Mantis doesn't really have any one character that just hard counters her, but where Mantis does struggle is when more than one character gets on top of her, whether they are diving her or just brawling out on top of her. For example, Black Panther on his own really isn't that much of a threat. However, if you add Venom into the mix too, it does make it much harder to survive against them. This is because your sleep can only peel for one target at a time, making it nearly impossible to win if there is any amount more than just one. In ranked, most teams are not that coordinated to jump you at the same time, so where Mantis gets countered per se is when she is played into a bad composition on her team. Compositions where Mantis will struggle typically include characters that want to get up close and personal with the enemy if there are only 2 supports active in the composition. Think characters like The Thing, alongside Magic that is focusing on brawling with the core. In these situations, everyone wants to stack, which gives Mantis a difficult time finding meaningful damage and uptime since she won't be able to take an angle around shields, making characters like Loki, Luna Snow, and Invisible Woman much better options. Now, if there are 2 other supports alongside her, making Mantis the 3rd support, that bypasses this weakness in this scenario since it allows Mantis to be played like a DPS instead of a support, which is where she truly thrives. So let's talk about those strengths and who Mantis does really well with. First of all, Mantis thrives in compositions that like to poke or dive, so tanks like Venom and Captain America naturally just work well with a Mantis damage boost and the pressure she provides. Mantis also goes incredibly hard with a Star-Lord or Black Widow simply because of the breakpoints she provides to both of their kits. Other DPS Mantis also does well with includes Psylocke, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and any flyer because it's just so easy to heal all of them, and applying a damage boost makes all of their kits incredibly consistent to find picks with. In terms of supports to play Mantis with, Adam Warlock is pretty nice by default as it allows Mantis to resurrect herself if she ends up dying in the middle of her flank every 2 minutes. But in my opinion, there isn't enough healing with this composition unless certain characters are banned like Luna Snow and Loki. Because of this, Mantis can be slotted alongside any support that does a good amount of healing, specifically characters like Luna Snow, since she can also keep up with the dive, but she isn't horrible with the Loki and triple support compositions either. It really just comes down to the situation. Alright, so now that we know how Mantis's kit works specifically, now we're going to be talking about Mantis in every single rank, starting in Celestial 3 with Cujo, a mod in our community. He's a Mantis player, and he's running with pretty much 2-2-2 comp with the Mr. Fantastic. Here he has his ultimate, so what he's going to do is he's going to use it aggressively here to speed boost his team through the choke to get on cart here when he's stuck in a very difficult situation. But now what's happening is instead of looking for healing, watch how he just uses the ultimate to push and be aggressive here to win the fight before his ult is over, before the enemies have a chance to respond with that Thor ultimate. You can see they also have a Mantis too, but because she's not playing as aggressive and she's not trying to take angles before the fight where she realistically probably could have killed someone in the backline, she's just playing too passive, and that's why Cujo is winning here with the ultimate. So let's move on to the next VOD. All right, for this next VOD, we're going to be reviewing Brush. He's primarily a Jeff the Shark and Mantis creator here on YouTube. I'll make sure to link him in the description. The main thing that I want to show you guys that this guy's doing in Eternity in this fight is just watch his uptime. He has his Mantis something or other. It's on 3 different characters right now. It's absolutely insane. And while this is on all those other characters, he's going to be getting aggressive to try to farm more Mantis charges, more life charges this entire fight. Do I agree exactly with how aggressive his team is playing on that choke? Not really, but this is ranked, so what is he going to be really able to do? But watch how he's constantly taking angles. He's constantly keeping the uptime of his abilities like as much as he possibly can, and then in the meantime, he's doing damage. This was him doing a little bit too much, but this is what I would rather see support players doing. I would rather see them going and trying to do too much rather than them just kind of sitting in the back with Mantis doing a whole lot of nothing. When you try to push yourself to do a little bit more, which I mean, all of these things that he does is what's going to further him, give him more opportunities to carry his team, and at the end of the day, that's how you're going to win in Marvel Rivals. All right, so for this last VOD review, I wanted to show you guys just some random Mantis that we found on ladder around 300 in Eternity, and I want to show you guys how this guy played throughout this entire fight, utilizing this res team up that we have on our team. So I wanted to show, watch how he always has damage boost up. He always has uptime constantly going on. The Star-Lord from the other team uses ult, so what he does is he gets into the Luna Snow ult. But instead of trying to heal people like a lot of people do that are lower level on Mantis, he immediately goes to damage boost our Adam Warlock and our Star-Lord throughout the Luna Snow ultimate, and then begins to try to punish the Punisher on the high ground that's off on his own that doesn't have a health pack anymore. These damage boosts are what's helping our team secure picks, which is going to lead to a longer fight for the enemies because they're probably going to use more support ultimates, but it's going to lead us to a 1 game in the long run. Right here, it's impossible for him to really peel for the Adam Warlock, but it's fine because Adam Warlock has a res, and now it's just a matter of time. We then push with our Mantis ult, which is then going to force them to use a Magneto ult and a Luna Snow ult, and all that King Bomb is doing here is he's not doing too much. He's forcing the enemies to use 3 ultimates for his 1 push with the Mantis ultimate. And even though we might lose this fight, what he did with all of the damage got 4 ultimates out of the enemies. And it's possible that this fight could still be won if we played a little bit better. Maybe if Pastel Paint didn't die, maybe could res there. I mean, there's so much that could have happened better that fight on everyone specifically, but that's a good fight. That's 4 ultimates. It's not a lost game. We did win this game because they used 4 ults, strictly because all of us are playing our characters really efficiently, and the uptime that we just saw on Mantis there is eternity level, almost one above all level, and that's what you got to be pushing for if you really want to be the best of the best on the character. And that closes out today's guide for Mantis and Marvel Rivals. If you have any questions, make sure to send them in my comments down below, as well as asking me live right now here on YouTube or at twitch.tv/PazSwagger. I stream every day I upload, so be sure to check me out to learn more about everything we talked about today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.